Welcome back everybody, Matt the Man here. Hope you're doing well. Today is a special day. Today is the 20th anniversary of Batman Begins. Oh my god. I cannot believe it's been 20 years since this movie came out. I remember going to see it. It was actually the day after it came out on that Saturday. I had to go to work that late afternoon that day, so I finally had my first job. This was right after my freshman year of high school, so that summer, before sophomore year, I got my first job at the time, and I had to go to work later that day, so my dad and I decided to go see an earlier screening of Batman Begins at United Artists in Alpharetta by North Point Mall, and I remember being completely blown away by this movie. Once again, you gotta remember, Batman at the time, in terms of the overall, Hollywood-wise, was not top tier, because of Batman and Robin 8 years prior, that completely shot down any future Batman movies at the time. And then, don't forget, the year before Batman Begins came out, we had the Halle Berry Catwoman movie that completely is considered one of the worst movies of all time. So, going into Batman Begins, it was like, oh boy, is this going to permanently put Batman in the coffin? Or is this going to be a resurgence of Batman? Between Batman and Robin and Catwoman, things are not looking good. And of course, this movie completely blew me away. I didn't know who Christopher Nolan was before this movie. I only knew Christian Bale because of two movies, Reign of Fire in 2002, and then of course the Little Women remake back in the 90s with Winona Ryder, Claire Danes, Kirsten Dunst, Susan Sarandon, Gabriel Byrne. But other than that, even at that time, Christian Bale was not a household name. He's been around for a long time, but he was not a prominent A-list actor. So Christian Bale was really my first, true, oh my god, who is this guy? And Christian Bale is my favorite Batman actor still to this day. I think he embodies all three personas perfectly. Batman, Bruce Wayne, but also Bruce Wayne, the recluse, dark, person, and the playboy side. I think he's always nailed all three of them, and especially with Batman Begins. I know people like to argue, when we get into The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, that voice doesn't sound right or whatever. But when you watch Batman Begins, I remember hearing that Batman voice in the theater and just going, oh my god, we've never seen this before. And he really made Batman its own character compared to Bruce Wayne. To the point you really understand why people do not see Bruce Wayne as Batman? No way. I think he really brought the mess we've seen. And also the Batman suit. I have always loved this Batman suit more than what we see in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. Batman is supposed to be this hulking bulk menace where he walks into a room and you are terrified. And the suit that he wears in this movie, I love how it's all black. The muscles, the chest plate, the bat symbol. To me, it all looks perfect. The longer cape that he wears, it just says Batman. Truly Batman. And what's great about this movie is also the cast. I think anyone could argue that this is probably the best cast for any superhero film ever. You know, before that it was Superman. I mean, you had Gene Hackman, Marlon Brando, Warren Beatty, Margaret Kidder, even though Christopher Reeve was still kind of an unknown. But they surrounded that movie with an unknown. And they've always done that with other Superman movies. Even Superman Returns. Nobody knew who Brandon Roth was. But they got like Lawrence Fishburne, not Lawrence, they got Frank Langella, they got Kevin Spacey, James Marsden, even Kate Bosworth was known a lot more than Brandon Roth. But this cast is dynamite. You got Michael Caine as Alfred, who I would argue is still the best Alfred in any iteration of Batman. Not only that, but because of Christopher Nolan working with Michael Caine, he went on to have a long partnership with Christopher Nolan from not only the Batman movies, The Prestige, Inception, Interstellar, Dunkirk. I mean, then you got Liam Neeson in here. My name is Henry Ducard. I work for Ra's al Ghul, but people call me Henry Ducard. I mean, you had Liam Neeson in a Batman movie. I mean, come on. Then you got Morgan Freeman. And Lucius Fox. I mean, and he just came off of winning his Academy Award for $1 Million Baby at the time. And then we got Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon. Gary Oldman. People. I mean, and then at this time most people were known for Gary Oldman to play the villain. You go back to Lost in Space, The Professional, The Fifth Element, Air Force One. I grew up with Gary Oldman being a bad guy. But now he's coming in to play the Commissioner, Lieutenant Gordon. Good evening, Lieutenant. It's Commissioner now. You've really started something. Mad cops running scared. Sorry, I had it. And then we got actors like Rutger Hauer as the guy trying to take over Wayne Enterprises. Rutger Hauer in a Batman movie from Blade Runner. Then we got Tom Wilkinson as Carmine Falcone. You know, the mob boss. You know, I mean, it's like, how do you get all this talent in one movie? But then you got other actors that come into this movie, like Cillian Murphy as Jonathan Crane, Scarecrow. And I will still argue with people, no, Cillian Murphy did a great job in that role. He was creepy, and that's what you wanted. I still love that interrogation scene where Carmine Falcone's in the room, and, you know, Jonathan Crane puts on the mask, and he hits the button for the gas to come out, and he just frightens. I still remember jumping in the theater when that scene happened, because you don't expect it. And I literally jumped in my seat. But then you might think, you look at Cillian Murphy, who, other than for 28 Days Later at the time, he was an unknown to most people, like me. You're a freak, like me. But he was an unknown. That was the first time I saw Cillian Murphy, was in Batman Begins. And then 2 months later, he was in Red Eye. It was like one of those moments, I was like, hey everybody, it's Cillian, I'm here. But then we look at Cillian Murphy now, and we look at his career with Christopher Nolan. Between still popping up in the other Batman movies, we no one expected that. Then you go to like Inception. Then you go to Dunkirk. Then you go to Oppenheimer, where he just won his Academy Award 2 years ago. All because of Christopher Nolan. And there's probably going to be more movies to come. I mean, and then you got Katie Holmes. And guess what, people? I don't care what you say. I prefer Katie Holmes as Rachel Dawes over Maggie Gyllenhaal in The Dark Knight. I said it. I think Katie Holmes and Christian Bale had better chemistry. I thought they also looked, in terms of age, and just you easily see them as these best friends, but also a couple, even though they don't actually become a couple. But you get my point. And I just thought their chemistry was a lot better. And it's Katie Holmes, the girl next door. What do you expect? And at least for me at that time, other than seeing a few episodes of Dawson's Creek, she was kind of new to me. And I was like, okay. I saw her more in the tabloids because of Tom Cruise at the time. That was the same here. Tom Cruise was jumping on the couch. Yeah. Can't forget that. Can't forget that. We'll never let you down, Tom. But even her, I liked her in the movie. Now, do they give her that much she actually do? No, but I don't blame that on Katie Holmes. But what we do see, I like. And I love this movie has a great pace to it. Over 2 hours and 20 minutes, and you never feel it. I love that Christopher Nolan made sure the focus was on Bruce Wayne in this movie, not Batman. That's why it's called Batman Begins. It's Batman Begins. That's why at the end of the movie, when you see the title come up, it doesn't come up at the beginning of the movie, it comes up at the end of the movie. Why? Because he's saying, okay, now he's Batman. I love that we don't see him as Batman for a full 1 hour into the movie. I even paused the movie to make sure when he finally shows up as Batman in the suit, it's an hour into the film. Because we wanted to spend the first hour getting to know Bruce Wayne. Who is Bruce Wayne? What does he do? What are his fears? His relationships. Who does he care about? All these things. How does he become Batman? That was another thing, some people might think it was a little too... No, people always wondered, how did this guy become Batman? He's just a billionaire playboy. And this movie shows you how he becomes Batman. And, between the Batmobile or the tank, love the line, doesn't come in black. It just works. And even when we do see him as Batman, a lot of people complain that, the action in the movie isn't great. It's so tight, and you can't tell what's going on sometimes, and it's quick editing. And I've always defended it, not because you're a Batman, purist. No. This is Batman Begins. He is not going to be perfect in his first fight in that bat suit. It's going to look odd. It's going to feel weird. It's not going to be smooth. He's not in his prime. This is his first fight. First fight. It's like when you have sex for the first time. Is it perfect the first time? Probably not. Probably not. But as you do it more and more and more, you get better at it. Just like him. That's why when you get to The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, the action's a lot better because he's more seasoned. Trust me, Christopher Nolan does things not because he doesn't know what he's doing. It's intentional. Remember, this is Christopher Nolan we're talking about. And then we get the great dialogue, the great lines, the quotes that have stayed with me all these years. I love the scene where Bruce Wayne is at the hotel. He brings the chicks with him. and they go swimming in the pool, and it's not really a pool, and we see that Playboy side, you know. But Ruth, what do you think about the Batman? A guy who dresses up like a bat clearly has issues. A little later when he's leaving the hotel and he runs into Rachel. Ruth? Rachel? I heard you were back. Yeah. Why? I was just swimming. Same old Bruce Wayne. Rachel, all of this, it's not me. I am more. Ruth, deep down you're still always that little boy. But it's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you. It's like, and then he says it later on, we hear that again, when he rescues her and the little boy, brings them up on that rooftop, and she says again, wait, tell me who you are, at least give me your name. And what does he do? He looks at her, it's not who I am underneath, but what I do, that defines me. And then it dawns on her, Ruth. That quote, I used that in high school for my senior year high school quote. Because at that time, it's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me. Echoed at the time my high school making those highlight films. It's not who I am underneath, but what I do, highlight films. That defines me. Those highlight films from high school have defined me, and they still do. I still have people come up to me and go, you're the guy who made those highlight films. So, it's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me. But that was the quote for high school. Now, the other quote in this movie is one of my favorite quotes ever. And it literally got me through college. And it's still a quote that I use to this day. I even gave this quote to somebody at the beginning of the year this year. And it's still the quote that got me through college. Why do we fall? So we may learn to pick ourselves back up. And it got me through college when my knee dislocated, when I had stomach issues going on in college, when my lung collapsed, when some girl I knew in college hurt me. Why do we fall? So we may learn to pick ourselves back up. Even when my friend died, a very dark time, okay, Bruce, or in this case, Matt, get up. Get up. And then even a couple years ago when my knee dislocated again, it was another one of those, okay, get up. Get up. Fight. And I gave it to someone at the beginning of this year, because she's going through stuff. And it's like, hey, to me that has always been my quote. Anytime something's not going right, I always say, hey, stop. Remember, why do we fall? So we may learn to pick ourselves back up. So we may learn to get back up and start over again. Some great, great moments in the movie too. What do you call that? Damn good television. After they see him on the news in the Batmobile. But the Batman, he has a talent for disruption. Or you got even the ending of the movie. You never learn to mind your surroundings. Oh, I love the scene in the elevator when Wayne Manor is burned down, and they're in the elevator, Alfred and Bruce, and he goes, you still haven't given up on me, Alfred, have you? And Alfred looked at him, never. I mean, or you get, the ending with the speech. Oh, it's Lieutenant now. Good evening, Lieutenant. Oh, it's Commissioner now. You really started something. Mad cop's running scared. Escalation. The whole escalation speech. We my automatic, they my semi-auto. We my armor-piercing rounds. They my Kevlar. And you're a guy wearing a mask, jumping off rooftops. Now take this guy for example. Armed robbery. He has a taste for the theatrical like you. He leaves a calling card. Joker. And who knew that the Joker was going to be Heath Ledger? Nobody. And, I never thank you. And you'll never have to. Boom. But the whole escalation is literally the blueprint of what the Dark Knight is. The escalation of war. The escalation of terror. Fear. Post 9/11. But then there's one more scene in this movie that when I was a kid 20 years ago, it didn't resonate with me as much as it does now as an adult, and everything that has happened to me throughout college and post-college. That at the end when Bruce is going through all the rubble of Wayne Manor being burned, and Rachel comes up to him, and, they're talking, and he's like, I'm sorry I never told you about. She's like, you don't have to apologize. What she said, when I heard you were back, but then I heard about your mask. And, Bruce was like, it's just a mask, Rachel. And she goes, no, this is your mask. The one that criminals now fear, that's the real you. The guy who left and came back 7 years later is not the same guy. But maybe he's out there somewhere. Maybe one day, when people no longer need Batman, I'll see him again. Now this is your mask. The one that criminals now fear. The man I love, he never came back at all. But maybe one day I'll see him again. Maybe one day, when the world no longer needs Batman, he'll come back. And when I was younger, I didn't get that. But now, with everything that happened to me in my life since college, I've had people say that, like, you're not the same person you used to be. They say, like, a parent of mine would say, what happened to the boy that always smiled? Always smiled. I would say, well, he went to college. And it's true. I think a lot of people would say, he is not the same person he used to be. And they're like, what happened to that guy? What happened to, the guy from, Savannah guy? Where is he? And it's always been like, he's out there somewhere. Oh, that guy's out there. But not right now. Maybe one day we'll see him again. But not today. And probably not for a while. But maybe one day. When the world no longer needs Batman. But, like I said, and then you add the music. I forgot about the music. The Hans Zimmer score. Not just for the main Batman theme, but when Bruce Wayne's parents die, or like at the end when Rachel and Bruce are talking throughout the rubble of Wayne Manor, the music there is a great piece of music. Hans Zimmer did a great job. Like I said, this is my favorite Batman movie. It will always be my favorite Batman movie. I know people say The Dark Knight, and hey, The Dark Knight is great on a whole other level. But I think this movie's had This movie has something that The Dark Knight doesn't have, and that is heart. This movie has a lot of heart to it. And that's something that was missing in The Dark Knight. Now you get a little bit more of that in The Dark Knight Rises, but in Batman Begins, it's all heart. And that has always been something like character. Now, there are moments where I watch this movie and I'm like, I don't even care about seeing him in the Batman suit because I'm so invested in Bruce Wayne. So let me know in the comments below, are you a fan of Batman Begins? I can't believe it's the 20th anniversary. Wow. A lot has happened in 20 years. That is for sure. Even when I was a freshman, just starting my first job ever, before the sophomore year, before I started making films in high school, before college, before everything that happened in college, before the death of my friend. It's just, and everything that has happened since, it's like, whoa, yeah, what happened to that guy? A lot. Anyway, Matt the Bat here. Let me know in the comments below, are you a fan of Batman Begins? Are you going to watch it for the 20th anniversary? Let me know in the comments below. Matt the Bat, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment.